I just finished composing, shipping, and releasing the lobby theme for an indie game called Yes, My Warlord, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through the lessons from that process so you can steal the workflow, not just the sounds. Let's jump in. Hi, my name is Dan. I help gamers become legit video game composers, finish their own soundtracks, and get them into real video games. This isn't just a step-by-step DAW tutorial. You're about to see how I think when I'm scoring a real ship track for a real game. How I planned the loop, built the groove, added in some guttural Goblin chants, and then turned the whole thing into something that developer could drop straight into Unity or Godot. By the end, you're going to have a mental checklist that you can run through on your next piece of music that you compose. All right, part number one. Let's start with the loop, not with the melody. For this track, I started with a loop plan. The developer already had a placeholder royalty-free track in place in the game. He'd been hearing those royalty-free tracks on repeat for months. So instead of being original for the sake of it, I asked, all right, what tempo are his ears already married to? Where does his music need to breathe? Where should the loop feel invisible? So I dropped in a placeholder track, grabbed the tempo with a BPM counter, marked out where the drums entered, where the energy spikes, and where a loop could land without feeling jarring. Only after I did this and I had a map of where I was going to go did I say, okay, cool, now let's write something better inside this skeleton. So here's the takeaway for you. Anytime you compose any type of music, decide the target length. If it's going to loop, figure out the loop point. Figure out the energy curve. Where does the energy spike and come back down? Before you write a single note, it makes every decision so much easier because you're not trying to build the map as you go along. You're just filling in the blanks to create the piece of music. All right, number two, drums as melody. Before I wrote a single note, I wrote a drum groove that could stand out on its own. I literally asked, if I mute everything but the drums, is this fun to listen to? So I built an 8-bar groove instead of a 4-bar one so the loop felt alive, not robotic. I treated the drums like a melody where the hits answer, where the tension builds, where we can speak and where we can stay quiet just with the drums. I layered cinematic hits, kicks, toms, high percussion until the groove itself was telling a story. Only when the percussion felt like it had its own character did I allow myself to move on. So here's the rule you can take for yourself. If it's a percussion-driven track, the percussion must be interesting enough to just listen on its own. So now my house rule is this for game loops. If the beat is boring on its own, everything else is fighting uphill. All right, part number three. Texture first, notes second. Once the drums work, I built the bass riff. But at this range, the bass isn't about fancy harmony, it's about texture and attitude. I tried different speeds. Slower felt threatening but not urgent. Faster, like more beat divisions, felt urgent but less heavy. I landed in a sweet spot where it felt like you're about to be attacked but like in a fun, engaging way. Then I wrote a simple driving rhythm, focused on the question of, does this feel right over the drums, more than is this the smartest chord choice? I added small variations every 2 to 4 bars, so it never felt like it quite repeated in the same exact way. And then when the notes are that low too, and they're kind of low and rumbly, instead of thinking, is this the most sophisticated bass line I could write, just think, am I getting the right texture? Am I getting the right feeling? That mindset will save you hours of tweaking. All right, part four, Goblin chants and world building. So this game has ridiculous, fun goblin energy. So I asked kind of a weird question. If I was a goblin, how would I sound? Then I literally recorded myself making goblin noises over the track. It was messy, I had latency issues, I had off-time phrases, notes that were too bright, but I kept the spirit and fixed the timing and tone later. I pitch shifted and layered multiple takes. I panned them left, right, and center to feel like a horde of goblins. I nudged some of them on the grid on purpose to be early and late because goblins are not going to sing in time like a perfectly quantized choir. And that gave the track something AI loops can't make. Weird, specific personality. So here's the lesson. When you get an idea that seems kind of weird but would fit in the world, don't kill it. Try it out. Edit it into something usable. The Goblin chants are now one of the coolest parts of the whole track, at least in my humble opinion. All right, part number five, mixing on bad speakers and then polishing the loops. Once I had a working mix in my headphones, I did something absolutely unsexy that I wish more beginners would do, and because I'm not a professional engineer, I still do. And you might say, yeah, well, I know some people who aren't professional engineers who mix on headphones. Great, good for them. I wish them luck. I don't know what to tell you. I've been making music for over 20 years. I still like to use multiple sets of speakers to really dial in a mix. So, I checked the track on tiny laptop speakers, and on those, the kick was way too loud, and the goblins didn't pop the way I wanted. So I pulled the kicks back a couple of decibels, I adjusted the goblin chant levels and panning until it clearly felt like there was more goblins later in the track. I used very light bus processing, just enough clarity, not a brick wall master limiter to crank into. I exported, bounced, listened, tweaked, bounced again. Arguably maybe a little bit boring, but that's how you get music that translates in-game and on different speakers, and I knew people were going to be playing this on their laptops, so it needed to sound good on laptops. Then I did the loop polish pass. I exported the full mix as a WAV file. I opened a fresh project, imported just that file, found the exact loop point, added tiny fades to the cut, tested the loop over and over until I literally could not hear where it was, and only then did I send it to the developer. Part number 6. Turn one track into a system and proof. Here's a big meta lesson not to miss. It isn't just one cool track. This is now a repeatable protocol I can use on every future drum-based lobby theme. And it's a proof asset that shows developers and clients that I can actually do this in real project. Anytime I do work like this, I record the process, stream the process, pull out big lessons, use that as extra training behind the scenes for my clients and future clients. Record your real work and use it as a bonus proof piece is one of the easiest ways to increase the perceived value of the music that you're creating. It also creates a paper trail to show that you're creating real human music and it's not a bunch of AI nonsense. And raw, real process beats over-polished highlight reels almost every single time in terms of trust. The more genuine client experiences and doing the work moments you can capture, the more persuasive your story becomes later about showing how you are a real composer doing real things. The only reason I'm able to make this video now is because of the work I did before. So if you're composing for games, don't just ship the track and move on. Record your screen, talk through what you're doing, and you'll start building a library of proof you can use in addition to your portfolio and your pitches and your own learning to build out your brand as a creator, as a composer. Now, if this breakdown helped you and you want to go from I dabble in music to I write and release legit game tracks that I am proud of, go ahead and check out the link in the video description. I've got a free video game music composer starter pack that'll walk you through the full system my clients and I use to go from zero finished tracks through releasing professional quality tracks on Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, and creating OSTs for real games. I'll see you in the next one.